Welcome everyone to the third series, speaker section series. And today we have an exciting topic waiting for you. Last week we covered the product life cycle and how to build an AI product from scratch, keeping in mind of the business objectives and ROI and the impact. Today and the next session as well, we'll be covering responsible AI. So we have a very special guest today speaking to you on the first topic on responsible AI. So over to you, Lahri, to introduce our speaker for today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Francie. Thank you for welcoming. Hello everyone. Thanks for joining again today. Today we have Leslie as a speaker here. And just to give a quick introduction about Leslie, I am welcoming her. So about Leslie, she is a PhD candidate and communication and media program, University of Calgary. And Leslie is experienced in science communication, community outreach, and crisis communications with local and international organizations. As a doctoral candidate at the University of Calgary, she has been working in the fields of responsible AI and AI narratives and policy making, and intersections between communication and AI ethical values, and including public trust. And she's a graduate of the London School of Economics AI ethics course and the first cohort of the University of Montreal Mila course on responsible AI and human rights, and the Alberta Machine Learning Institute Kickstart program as well. She has worked as a research consultant for a project on gender equality and inclusion in AI with Mila, and which is a Quebec Artificial Intelligence Institute, a cross-pollinated approach based on learnings from science communication and studies of science and technology. Like critical studies informs Leslie's interest in issues of responsible AI, transparency, and interpretability from a user-centered design approach. And she's a volunteer for Women in AI Canada and the Calgary chapter as well. So I'm really honored to welcome Leslie here. Over to Leslie.
Thank you so much, Lahari. Thank you so much, Princey, for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm really always said that when I turn from feeling like alone in this ecosystem, in this AI ecosystem, to become part of a community, of a family, thanks to Women in AI Canada. So thank you so much again for having me here. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I will share my screen. So just give me a second. Okay, I think, can you see it? Okay, great. So before moving on, I'm really glad to be the third speaker as part of the hackathon, because it has like a very good transition from thinking of the perspective of the product to the life cycle of the product. And then you say, okay, here I am. I have a very good product in mind. I have my strategy to move on. I have done an ethics and human rights assessment on the harms that my product could potentially cause in let's say, particular population. I have managed my data ethically, but then there is a problem when it comes to communicate my product, how I put that product out there. So that's a question. And I have been looking at marketing approaches across many products. And sometimes what I feel is that all of them look like the same. All of them saying the same. We are the best product. We are going to make your life easier. We are going to make you more efficient. But the point here is how highlight your product, how you make your product unique through a narrative that it looks like you, looks like your intentions, looks like your own philosophy while developing that product. So that's why I was thinking how, like a very long standing tradition of studies in science communication and technology can help developers to put their products out there and make their products, let's say, stand out in a very large, like a mess of AI tools. So that's why I say, okay, let's discuss trust. As you know, when you think of, many of you, when think of transparency, what you think is on, let's say, how biased is the product. Let's measure fairness. Let's measure, let's say, how can we, I don't know, align or Shapley values to make my product explainable. But that's not possible all the time. Because, as you know better than me, not all systems are explainable in the first place. And also because issues like fairness, you cannot measure fairness all the time. There is a very interesting paper published by Fujitsu in Japan, where they say, okay, let's try fairness by design. And it is very interesting how, when they measure what is fairness in Japan against Australia, against UK, what they developed was a tool for credit assessment, bank credit assessment. And they were surprised about how different were the perceptions of fairness between people in UK, in Japan, and Australia. That's why it is difficult. That's why in this paper here, the authors highlight the idea that trust is a human issue. You cannot measure all the time trust because there are many factors influencing our judgment, the way we trust or not a product. So now I want to remind you this. Remember that when you launch an application, when you launch a product, there are so many factors. First, is this product is embedded in a socio-technical environment. Here in the middle, you have your application, but it's surrounded by an institution. Who is that institution? In that case, it's an institution that most nobody knows, because you are trying to develop your product from scratch. You are trying to create your venture. You are not well known in that ecosystem. So you have to build trust in the institution. In that case, your venture, your small company. So you first need to build that trust in the institution, in you as a developer, as a product owner. And then that trust is also surrounded by a trust or not in technology. Does this person trust in technology at all? Or is like a skeptical about how technology, I normally have like something that I call playground talks with parents at the playground. And you will be surprised on how many people distrust technology and are skeptical about technology. So that's why you need to think of, not only in your application, not only in your product, but also in the institution, your face, your brand, and also how it is embedded. It is embedded in that whole environment. Sorry. Okay, sorry, okay, there. Okay, I said you are not alone. This here, it is a screenshot from Saturday, there is an AI for that. Probably most of you know this website. What they do is like kind of a marketplace, for AI products. And just in Saturday, these many products were launched, just in Saturday. So you are not alone. This is not that I'm creating this unique product. You better know first what is out there and how many tasks this product is taking and who is helping. So that's why I wanted to remember that. I want to remember you that you are not alone in this. Look at that, how many products in just one day. So now I want to have a question. So what is the relation between building that trust and communicating that product ethically? Because we normally think of the data, as I mentioned. We think of how the product could be biased, how could affect determined populations, but we normally overlook how we are going to communicate that product, what we are going to say. And one key part of the responsible AI journey is to communicate our products ethically, transparently, that in a way that people can understand. Now I want to ask a question, and please, you feel free to drop your answer in the chat. Here, I have a study. A is the control, and B is the intervention. These two were Google Ads. The authors of this study, they launched these two Google Ads. I want to ask you, which ad, A or B, you think receive more likes and more clicks? Which generate more clicks? Which one do you think? Okay. Some of you say A, some of you say B. And the correct answer, okay, you say B? Okay. Nobody else? Okay, B. Okay, then ad that received more clicks was B, was the intervention. And you know why? Because it includes a very little explanation on how the app works. If you read carefully, it says our algorithm checks how similar skin moles are in shape, size, color to cancer moles. And the first one only says our algorithm checks if skin moles are cancerous moles. So that's very interesting because the difference between A and B is only a little explanation on how really the system works. And you can think, okay, and the difference was huge. The difference was almost the double between A and B. And you can think, people don't understand. If I explain from the standpoint of the developer, they cannot understand because it's too technical, because it's too difficult to explain it. But here, you see an example on how people do understand and how they appreciate that transparency while explaining how our products work. So, but what is going on until now is this. Okay, sorry. What is going on until now is this. This same study investigated which words are being used to communicate, to publicize AI products, in the case of health particularly. And they found this. These are the words, the keywords, the buzzwords that are being used: accuracy, convenience, and rapidity, performance, against the processes behind the system, behind the model. And what is interesting here is this is very consistent with the way that, let's say, science, technology has been, but especially science, has been publicized during the years, because there are many studies showing how the public narrative focuses on time, efficiency, performance. We are better than anyone else, but providing few details on the why. Why are you better than the rest? So, and that's transparency as well. It's not only about, discouraging about discovering, unveiling your processes and your ethical perspective, but also saying transparently how we get there. So here we have some I call it non-mathematical approaches to build trust, to make not only the model transparent, not only the model explainable, but the process. It's not the way that, okay, let's build this product. This product is going to be explainable. We're going to choose this particular, let's say, method to make it explainable. but it's also about the whole processes. So what these three approaches here are saying is that we can undertake different approaches to build trust in our products and make the process transparent. The process about the data, about the decisions, about the board now that we are the teams that are building that product. So the first one is risk communication. And I know for some of you, risk communication is normally part of the, let's say, tactical perspective. When we create a risk management plan, we say, okay, which is risk communication, what we are going to say if something goes wrong. And then we prepare a package of information like for a very last minute emergency issue. But what this author is saying is that in the case of AI, we should be thinking ahead. What is the potential risk? Where are the potential harms? You know why? Because as experts, you see the risk in a different way that people see the risk. You will be surprised. And what this person is saying, what this author is saying here, is that we should be aware of that differences. How my target market, how my target users see this risk, and think of that. Because you will see, let's say in percents, there is a risk of 70%, 80%, 90%. But for the life of that person, that is not a number, it's something else. And what is this person is proposing is to think of the different stances of risk and go ahead, anticipate. Okay, and you will see you will see an example later on how to do that. Then we have the match model. I really recommend you to, if you take a time to read this paper, Designing for Responsible Trust in AI System and Communication Perspective, because what they are proposing here is to integrate this model, the match model, to build trust in the model particularly, like in the system per se, not in an institution, not in the institution, not in the whole environment, but in the model per se, by explaining, as I said before, issues related to data, issues related to the trust, how trust is the model, and how ethical were the decisions that you take. And then we have everyday explanations. This is very simple, and I will deep on that later, because what is said here is that we should translate this into everyday explanation. And there is a difference between explanations in the lay language and explainability. While explainability is more related to the property of the model, these explanations are like a product surrounded your main product. Could be communication product, workshops, community building events. But how do you craft those explanations surrounding your product? So this approach is not saying, okay, we don't need to make our products explainable. No, it's not that. It's to complement that mathematical approach with more, let's say, socio-technical approaches. So these three are very interesting. So now what it requires to build trust in AI from a communication perspective. So as I said before, you need not only to build trust in your application, but in the institution. And sometimes that institution is you, your friend, and another friend who say, okay, let's put this out there and let's look for investors. We need investors, but you are three of you. And what do you do to build trust in yourself as a very young, small venture? Okay, you will need disclose who are you, what is your background, why people should trust you. And then in the model, the ability of the model, they say, what is, in the language of developer, you will say, what is the critical function of the model? You can think of that. And what is your intention? You know that among the UNESCO ethical principles, there is one that is very important, no harm. And here, what they are saying is that you have to disclose that intention of benevolence. Why my product is going to make your life easier, but also why we are undertaking this product not only for the sake of profit, but also for the sake of good AI for good. And process integrity. Here on the process integrity, you have like all the process to manage your data, let's say the diversity of the team that created that application, the decision-making processes. So on the transparency, so you need, as I said before, conceptualized explanation, everyday language, encompassing a social technical approach. Now I will explain what I mean by all of that. Okay, what I would say, embrace a critical communication, simplify complex concepts, understand your audience, build a community. I will start with the first one because it could be like a problematic, I know. When I say embrace critical communication, I'm not saying that you need to criticize yourself and say my product is lacking of this and that. I'm not saying that you need to explain where is adversarial network against the generator. You don't need to go that deep. But what you need is to move from that very hardcore marketing approach that emphasizes on performance, rapidity, and all of that, to an approach that explains and educates people in issues related to your product. Simplify complex concepts. Now later on I will explain like some techniques to do this, to simplify complex concepts. Imagine that you are explaining this to your child or to a person who is not educated in these issues. Because if the child can understand, I mean, I know they are very smart child, but if you are able to unpack complex issues and put it in their language, they will go with you. They will trust in you. You know why? Because it's like, okay, this person understands my needs, understand my language. This person, this product can, make a dialogue with me. So that's why you need to simplify complex concepts. Sometimes we think, okay, you don't need to sound smart, use fancy words to sound smart and gain people trust. You need to empathize with them. And to empathize with them, you need to talk their language. Understand your audience. Now, in some days, you will explain your product to a jury of people who are data scientists or product manager, and so on. That audience is different from your end users. So think of, even for that presentation, think of the differences between that group of people who's going to judge your product and other group who is going to be, let's say, the end users. And that group of end users is also different from the regulators and is different from policymakers. So you have to adapt the way that you are going to communicate about your product to your audience. It's not always the same, because probably in this jury, there are people from several backgrounds, and you have to cover how you think of the ethical implication of your products, the potential harms. You have to cover a business perspective, how we can make money with this. You have to cover how you be in compliance with the ethical, with the regulations in the potential country where you want to develop that. But in the case of the end users, the concerns are probably different. And in the case of the regulators, their concerns are also different. So that's why you have to understand the audience that you are tackling, who they are, what are the questions, their needs, the expectations, and build a community. I really would love to have the time one day to talk about this, because if you look at the history of personal computing, you will see how important communities were, how important the enthusiasts were. They created magazines, they created communities, they sent letters back to the companies. It was so interesting and so fascinating. So you need to build that community to make that, feedback going on all the time. So for me, these are very, you see, it looks like a simple, it looks very like a straightforward, but it's not that straightforward as we can see. I have seen like many web pages, newsletters, Facebook ads, Google ads on different products. And sometimes what the companies are trying to convince people, but this strong marketing approach, and they are creating like they could create the completely a different effect that they were looking for, because it's too much, it's like, oh no, it's too much. So, to build that trust, you need to embrace a different approach. So I here try to share some techniques to simplify complex concepts. Think of the why. Okay, your product is better than the other ones, but why? Why your product is better than 10 more that are similar out there in the market? What makes your product different? And there is where you explain your inputs. Avoid jargon or technical terms. Sometimes it's needed. Sometimes you need some technical terms, but you need to, as I say, translate that in a way that everyone can understand. Let's think of policymakers. I mean, most of the policymakers are just hearing now about AI, are just hearing now about this whole world. Or investors. Maybe you need to adapt that and put it in an image that investors can make a click with them, or make a click with policymakers. Because what happens when you use very technical jargon is that they just, okay, no, here we don't have anything to do here. So that's why relate your communication with no examples in your target audience. Explore storytelling. This doesn't mean that you don't have to, take a fairy tale about your product and create a whole world. But if you explore storytelling, you can use those, let's say, situations, characters, and think of different trajectories of your product. Okay, what could be my product here in this situation? What could be in another situation? Or how could be my product with a different users? And that storytelling could help you to imagine situations for your product, can help you to imagine not only situations, but also trajectories, as we say in social studies of science and technology, alternative trajectories for your product. When you think of that, let's say that the user persona as that character employing your product, you can also use on alternative ways to use it. So that's why I say explore storytelling, not only to put the product out there, but also to imagine alternative trajectory. Uses analogies, metaphor, images. You will see now in the example that I'm sharing with you how to use these analogies, metaphors of imagine. Yesterday, I was just reading a book. I don't have it here, but yeah, I was reading a book by Dana Haraway. Is the doctoral dissertation of Dana Haraway. I know that Dana Haraway, when you see you immediately think of the cyborg and the cyborg article, but her dissertation is fascinating, because she is highlighting there how the metaphors to talk about science, to talk about technology, created, and this is a very it's an old book, created images in the audience that can, impact the paradigm of innovation, that can impact the way that we see science. That's why these metaphors, when we say AI will revolutionize healthcare, when we say revolutionize, that's a very strong image, because a revolution is a change of everything. So that's what I'm saying. Use analogies, metaphor, images, something that people can, see in their minds. Can this phrase, create an image that people can see right away? Yes, no? Okay, that's why I'm saying create metaphors, create images. So here I brought an example. I receive every day probably 10 newsletters from different products, because every product wants to create their community, create their own followers, and convince people, persuade people why to buy my product. This one is from Elicit. Elicit is very well known among the academic community, especially students like me trying to finish their dissertations, articles, and so on. And they come with a promise. We help you to write, we help you with your literature review. We make your life easier to complete that literature review, your papers, articles, and so on. So here, this newsletter, the last one, they say, we bring with something new. What is something new? Better summary of papers. Okay? They say you can upload it. What you do with this is to upload the papers, and they give you a summary of 4 in the case of 3. But now they improve their products, and they say better summary of paper. But voila, they don't say, but they say why. The summary now makes connections between paper and explains what the set of papers as a whole has to say about the research question. So why this is better now? Okay, they included the explanation here, because we are doing this now. And then they share a visual aid. That's why I say, don't tell me, show me. Here you have like a screenshot of the interface. What you do, what happens when you ask a question in the interface. So they, before they provide 4, now they provide 8. And this is the way that they provide. And when I say the process, this is very important. If you read here, the new summary uses factored verification, a technique developed by our machine learning team to reduce hallucination. Voila, here we have very important thing. What is a common concern? And when I say critical communication, this is what I mean. Go to the problem before, because what they know, because they know their audience, they know that for their audience, hallucinations are very critical, are a huge concern. So they say, okay, we are tackling that problem of hallucinations by developing factored verification, a technique. Factor verification makes it more likely that the summary accurately reports what is in the papers. And if you pay attention to the wording of this, they say factor verification make it more likely. They are not saying we are doing it. This is done. This is completely done. No, they are saying more likely. They are cautious. And they are also transparent, because they know that the problem can arise, that you can still have hallucinations. So the system. So that's why, for me, this is a very good example on how to, in a very few words, explain what is going on. They develop something, they created something, and they are tackling a problem, but they are anticipating that concern, because they know that here in the academic community that they are trying to targeting, this is a problem. So they understand the audience. I hope that the improved summary helps you to answer simple questions quickly and navigate the research literature around more complex questions more easily. So that the other thing that is really important from a responsible AI point of view is to embrace a narrative of support, of augmentation, because when you try, and there are also studies showing how the difference between a narrative that say, okay, we are going to substitute you, we are going to replace the human judgment, between a narrative that say this app, this product is going to support, is going to enhance, is going to augment the human judgment. So if you see here, they are in that size. They are saying you help you answer a simple question. Still, the agency is on the human side. So the tool is not taking the agency away from the person, from the human person. So that's why this is important. The wording is important, because when you embrace the narrative of replacement, so that means that you are embracing a narrative where humans are going to be replaced by the machines. But if you embrace a narrative of augmentation, support, improvement, enhancement, that's a different approach. So here, I think this is a very good example that encompasses everything. And they have also papers where they explain that, because they know their audience. They know they are targeting academics, and there are people who will go to read those papers and who will see and to verify what they are doing there. So that's why understanding the audience is very, very important, because the language, the framing, the way they're going to portray your answers has to do absolutely with that audience. So I think that example summarized very well some of my points here. And I think I ended 5 minutes before. Yeah. Okay. So if somebody have any questions, in this slide I supposed to say questions, but I just didn't type it. So yeah, please go ahead. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer and to have a chat with you.
Hi. Thank you so much for your talk. I really appreciate it. I would like some clarification on the principle in building trust, specifically the building of a community. Do you mind elaborating on what the positive is and what how a feedback loop could also be potentially negative? Thanks.
Okay, so sorry, what is your name? Because I didn't.
Oh, my name is Janice.
Janice. Okay, Janice, thank you so much, Janice, for your question. Yes, building a community. That's very important. I appreciate that you asked that. When you use, let's say you are using social media or Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn or Twitter, Instagram, to publicize your product. But building a community goes beyond the advertising of those products. What these people here in Illicit, what they are doing, they are trying to build a community. Because when you build a community, you expect feedback from people. You not only use, let's say, social media to ask people to buy your product. You also ask questions. You also ask for feedback. You also create events around your products. Let's say, an example, you are launching something that is, I will stick with a product for academics. And you are launching products for academics. Let's say you start by creating an event where people will learn how to use the product and they can exchange ideas, not only with you, but also among them. That's also a marketing strategy, because you will teach them, you will say you find for an academic who is very well versed in literature reviews, and you invite this person to converse about the different approaches to literature reviews, and let's say the different styles, the different contexts, journals, dissertations, and so on. But books, but you will integrate that with your product, and then you will start creating a community, because they will provide you for feedback. You will listen to them, to how they use their products. So that's what I mean by building a community. But when you use social media, when you use advertising, not only use it for sell it like very aggressively, sell your product very aggressively, take an approach that is softer, and with that approach, you will start building that community of people. Because when I mentioned the idea of personal computing, you know what they did? They started sharing how they were using the product with the companies, and the companies started taking notes, and your product would be better when you build that community around it. You have to be very aware of who would be interested on that product, on learning, and what is the, let's say, the contextual knowledge of that product. What is around that? Are the doctors? Are engineers? So who they are, and what could be their interests on learning more? It's not okay. I want to show you how to open this book. No, I also will show you what is surrounding this. That's what I mean by building a community. You know, embracing different techniques, different approaches to make people also loyal to your product. And that's one, let's say, aspect of publicizing it and educating your audience on it. Because you will not only educate them in your product, you will also educate them in the whole AI technology, in the whole machine learning technology, step by step. I know that's answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that did. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, if anyone have any questions, post it in the group or in the chat, or just feel free to unmute. So we have one question in the chat, Leslie. So I'll read up for you. So this is more of a general question, but do you have any advice on how to advocate for safety to your company?
When you mean for safety for your own company, for your own products, that's what you mean?
Like AI safety.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. But if you work for a corporation, okay. It's like advocating for how your product is in compliance with AI safety and so on. That's what I understand.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. What I'm asking is like, maybe you're asked to build like a software for your company that you work for, and maybe you feel like the way that they want you to build it isn't really in compliance with safety or like trustworthiness. So like, how can you advocate to your company like to make it better?
So here you have like an internal public. That's internal public for you. And I'm sure that some of you have going through that many times. I think that is something that we have experienced in our life. You know what you can do. You can frame it as a loss. In the loss, use the loss frame. Think of this. how much money they would lose if they would go with that approach in the long term. I will share with you this example. I don't know, I'm sure that many of you are aware of this example, but I will share it because it's a very good one. There is an association in the US called the Eating Disorders Association, something like that. They had a helpline. And what they did was to fire the humans, and adopt a bot for the helpline. What happened at the end was that the bot is starting providing incorrect advice to the people calling there and advising to people who had like eating disorders to go on a diet. So it was a disaster. So it was a scandal because they fired people because they want to do everything more efficient. And it is, ended up very bad, absolutely terrible. So what I could advise to you is to find an example like that. You can go to the incident database. I don't know if you are aware of this AI incident database. You can find an example that looks like what they are trying to do. Probably there is one example there because there are plenty of examples. And you can frame that in terms of how much you are going to lose, the time that you are going to invest. Because those two, time and investment, are normally, let's say, triggers for companies trying to make the processes more efficient, how much you are going to lose in the long term. So look for your triggers, what they are triggering they to do this, and how it's going to, in the long term, it's going to do like a completely reverse effect in terms of AI safety. So I will use those two frames to to develop. I hope it could make sense.
Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you so much. I didn't know about this incident database before, so it's kind of like, is it like a case law sort of like for AI incidents?
Exactly. It is like a
Okay.
very long database where you can filter by type of incidents in finance, in health, and so on. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Lucy.
So I hope these are the questions we have today. So I would like to take a moment and wrap up this speaker note. So firstly, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for the insightful presentation and taking up the questions. That's really an engaging speaker and participation here. So I see it's clear that we advance in the world of artificial intelligence, the way we communicate about these technologies, become as important as the technologies themselves. So just to take a quick moment to address on few key points from your talk. So the first one, I would like to talk on, share the link between the communication and the trust. So as you have shared, a crucial aspect of, fostering trust in AI technologies lies in clear and transparent communication. So as you said, it's not just about what AI can do, but also about how we communicate its capabilities and limitations to the public. So this clarity is essential for setting up, realistic expectations and building a trustworthy relationship between AI and its users. So yeah, and even yes, to truly engage the public in AI, as you said, we must adopt key principles and strategies that make AI more relatable and understandable, I can say. So yeah, this involves simplifying complex concepts without losing their essence, and actively involving the public in mostly in discussions about especially AI's ethical use and development. So yeah, these are the few like key takeaways from my side, like from your talk. So in closing, yeah, I would like to extend my thank you again, like Leslie, for sharing such an like valuable insights today, and your expertise in combining clear communication strategies with AI technologies guides towards, I mean to say, building a more trustworthy and ethically responsible AI future. So yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you for your engaging participation.
Thanks again to all of you for your time.